All right, here we go. Coming your way on today's Philadelphia 76ers. Now we have yet another James Harden update as this continues to be one of the most talked about storylines across the NBA. Nick Nurse spilling the beans on the Tyrese Maxey podcast about a Sixers roster addition. And Tyrese Maxey, did he take a shot at Glenn Rivers during that podcast with Nick Nurse? Before we unpack all of that, this is your home for year-round Sixers coverage and throughout free agency. Really, ever since the Sixers lost that Game 7, we've been pumping out so much content here on the show. It's been the best, most successful and historic stretch in the history of this program, and to be your fearless leader, it's a blessing for me. I don't take it for granted. Let's continue to grow the 76ers Now community. We're 592 people away from 12,000 subscribers. Hit that sub button to stay in the know with all things Sixers year-round. Let's begin here with the latest on James Harden. According to Ramona Shelburne of ESPN, he has, quote, reiterated his trade request, and the Sixers are, quote, in no hurry to do a deal. Here's the latest from Shelburne on ESPN. They have spoken again, James Harden and Philadelphia, and he still reiterated that he wants to be traded. Now, this is not a demand. It is instead a request. And I think that the Sixers have said, okay, we will try to trade you, James, but there is no hurry to do this right now. And I think that the Sixers understand here that they have the leverage in this situation. I mean, James has picked up his option. This is an opt-in to his contract, and he's going to be a free agent after this year. So at some point, he needs to play, whether that is in Philadelphia or elsewhere. And it's also become clear over the last couple of days that the Sixers are open here to bringing Harden back. The reigning MVP and Joel Embiid said in that interview with Rachel Nichols that he wants James Harden to return, and Patrick Beverley, during his introductory press conference, asked James Harden to stay. Those two really good friends, their moms, still best friends who live in the Houston area, and the Sixers have made some of these moves to appease Harden. He's close with Beverley. He's close with Montrezl Harrell. He's tight going back to those Rocket days with PJ Tucker. Tyrese Maxey sent out a GIF on Twitter when the news became apparent that maybe James Harden could come back as well. So I think the Sixers players are open to the idea of the Beard returning to Philadelphia. I don't love his game. I wish the Sixers would have moved on. Unfortunately, though, the free agency crop was pretty lame and not really stacked with legitimate playmakers to replace that production from James Harden. More from Shelburne here. There is a sense that if they can give it some time, and he's cool with his teammates, he's been talking to Joel Embiid, he's been talking to Patrick Beverley, PJ Tucker, that eventually maybe these fences can be mended and there is a path to reconciliation with James Harden. But for now, he has reiterated his trade request. And again, Shelburne saying it is a trade request and not a trade demand. But the messaging is clear here. James Harden is clearly not happy with Daryl Morey, and they have a long-standing relationship going all the way back to when Daryl Morey had traded for him when he was running basketball operations in the infancy of his career with the Houston Rockets. It's not like Harden is unhappy with the players on the Sixers team. He's just unhappy here with the messaging from Daryl Morey and the fact that Morey didn't communicate with Harden and his camp throughout free agency and in the lead-up to it. The Sixers, on the other hand here, Embiid, Beverley, the other players, they are telling Harden, we want you back, and we will welcome you with open arms. And, you know, you think back and you comb through some of the reports from Brian Windhorst and some of the other NBA insiders where they've said the Sixers are open for Harden to come back. That is Daryl Morey telling them that, yeah, we would like a return. Remember, this time of year on the NBA calendar, it is all about the leverage play and gaining that upper hand in these negotiations with these tactics, and that's what we're seeing transpiring here. At the end of the day, I actually think Harden is going to come back to the Sixers unless Daryl Morey can get a superstar back for James Harden. So if you want Harden back as well, just like these Sixers players here, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you don't want James Harden back, I want you to comment why right now in the comment section. We're only getting started on today's show, but first, how about this deal thanks to our friends at Fanatics? Michael Rubin, hosting the White Party, also giving us some great deals here at Chat Sports. The Sixers t-shirt shorts combo was $60, limited time only, $33. How do you get it? You use that link down below, chatsports.com/76ers combo. A lot of our viewers have purchased this over the last couple of weeks as we've been putting this on the show. Get your hands on it right now. Now let's get to story number 2. Nick Nurse spilling the beans about an addition to the Sixers roster for the 2023-2024 season. On Tyrese Maxey's podcast, he said that Filip Petrusev is going to be on this team. Here is the quote from the new Sixers head coach, who, by the way, is coaching the Sixers Summer League. My man loves ball. We're getting our young guys a lot of minutes. Jane Springer, Lewis King, and some of these guys, Filip, who's going to be on the roster this year, but we're also tactically trying to build. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the former Sixers second-round pick, he's 23 years old. He is Serbian. He was selected by Philadelphia in the second round, 50th overall back in 2021 out of Gonzaga. His second year with the Zags, they only lost like 2 regular season games that year. Drew Timme was on that squad. Joel Ajayi. He averaged like 17.5 points per game, and from that point when he was drafted, he's been a drafting stash, playing in the EuroLeague over the last couple of years. Now, if the Sixers don't bring him on board and have him as an official member of the Sixers roster, he's probably going to go back overseas. That's what his agent said. Here is that quote. If he doesn't sign in the NBA until August, then I'll listen to his international team first because he really likes the environment there. In fact, I will not consider European options. I think that Filip will be in the NBA next year. If not then, of course, he will be overseas. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Scouting Filip Petrusev. 10.5 points per game so far in the NBA Summer League, Utah and in Las Vegas. More than 6 rebounds per game. He had 4 blocks against the Dallas Mavericks on Monday night, so he's a pretty good shot blocker who has decent lateral mobility, even though he's not the most vertical leaper out there. What I've noticed about him is that he has pretty good touch around the rim. He has this mid-range push shot, which can range from around the basket to about 13, 15 feet, where he gets the rock and just has that push shot. So that's some of the touch around the rim that I've talked about. He is kind of working on this jab step, mid-range shot. The consistency there, it's a little bit wonky, but you can certainly see that he does have some potential to maybe crack an NBA rotation and be on this Philadelphia roster this upcoming season. So will Petrusev make the team? We're talking end of October, regular season opener. Is he on it as a former draft and stash who breaks through? Type on or type off. One more story to get to. Tyrese Maxey ripping Glenn Rivers. Stay tuned for that. But first, interact with me on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me there at Chase_Senior. It's been a blast as a guy who grew up in the Philadelphia area, went to Temple, lifelong Sixers fan, to hear from all of you. For you, those of you sliding in the DMs, continue to do that at Chase_Senior. As always, appreciate your support. Tyrese Maxey ripping Glenn Rivers kind of subtly. New rule on the show, we can't call him Doc Rivers any longer. It has to be Glenn because there's only one Doc in the history of the Sixers. That is Dr. J. Julius Erving. He was very complimentary, was Tyrese Maxey, of Nick Nurse in an interview with Nurse on the Tyrese Maxey podcast. And make of this what you want. But here's what Maxey had to say about Nurse. One thing I really thought about was how you say you try new things and you test them out. Like, that's crazy. I've never had a coach like that actually tests things out in the games. That right there is a pretty telling sentiment and pretty telling quote from Tyrese Maxey, because this comes a couple of weeks after Jaden Springer said something very similar about Nurse, which was kind of a slight, in my opinion, at Glenn Rivers and the way that he coaches, tries to develop and makes adjustments on the fly or lack thereof. Here's what Springer, the first-round pick from a couple of years ago, said about the first practice with Nurse. He came on strong, pause. I can tell he's a coach that really wants to help the players learn, and he wants to teach. He was stopping drills and stepping in and giving us points on what to do here, what to do there. I haven't seen that too much since I've been in the league. So you have Maxey and you have Springer saying very similar things. And a part of being a coach, winning games, which Doc Rivers did a lot, but it's the tactical adjustments that you can make inside a game, throughout a playoff series, but developing talent, not letting bad habits continue, stepping in and stopping those bad habits so that they don't translate to the actual game performance. And that's what Nick Nurse is trying to hone in on. And I think a big reason why Nurse is coaching the Summer League, something that Doc Rivers would never do, he's trying to instill his culture with this organization right from the get-go because he understands in the modern NBA landscape what it takes to win an NBA championship, having won it in 2019 as a rookie coach with the Toronto Raptors. Now, if you enjoyed the show, we've been pushing out videos every single day, sometimes multiple shows per day, grinding and hustling here because that's what we do. That's what Philadelphians do. They give me a real one down below, real one, roll call.